Thank you for joining us today for our final press briefing for the Alexander Mountain Fire. We have a couple extra folks today just to hopefully wrap this up, answer some any last questions, and then kind of set up what's coming next on this incident. So today we'll have our incident commander, Carl Schwope, start us out. Following that, we'll have our fire behavior analyst, Stuart Turner, who will talk a little bit more about the fire behavior on this fire and where we're at. After that, Lori Hodges from the EOC will be joining us. After Lori, it'll be Sheriff Fan is joining us again today. And then finally, Jason Sieg, who's the acting forest supervisor for the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forest. So with that, I'll hand it over to Carl.
All right, good afternoon. Carl Schwope, Incident Commander on the Alexander Mountain Fire with Southwest Area Team 1. As you know, acres remain the same, still at 9,668 acres. Our containment's up to 83%. Talk a little bit about 83% containment and what that means, because what the firefighters are doing is trying to get containment around the perimeter, and then they'll work interior into the fire a certain distance to make sure that there are no threats to the fire getting outside of our current perimeter. That doesn't mean that they're extinguishing all smokes on the fire. You'll still see interior smokes, and Stuart will talk to you a little bit more about fire behavior and some expected, what he expects. But those interior smokes are going to be normal. You're going to see them. I know as folks, as re-entry happens and roads open up and folks have more access to see the fire from different angles, you'll see interior smokes, and those are fine. Those are not an alarm. Things that may cause concern is if you do see flame, especially if it's on the perimeter and moving, that would be something that you may want to report in. But the interior smokes are going to be normal. So also with the increased containment comes the end of our time here on this incident. We're looking at a transfer of command back to the forest Friday morning at 0600. So with the last press briefing, I just want to say a couple of times we've been asked, what's the key to success, how the firefighters been able to make good progress. And there's a lot to that. There's no one simple answer, but one of the big things with that is the support we've gotten from the community. Now, if you can think, these guys go out, they're working long shifts, hot days, steep country, putting in a lot of miles, and they come back and all they see is a welcoming community. It really goes a long ways to keeping morale up and working hard. And so really want to appreciate that. Everywhere we've been, nothing but positive support. So want to say thank you for that.
Good afternoon. My name is Stuart Turner. I'm the fire behavior analyst for the team. As a fire behavior analyst, what I do for the team is I predict what the fire is going to do, where it's going to go, how big it's going to get, and how fast is it going to get there. And I'm looking at three things when I do that. I look at the topography, the hills, the mountains, the canyons, that type of thing. I look at the weather. Is it cloudy? Is it rainy? Is it sunny? Is it hot? Is it dry? And then I'm looking at the fuels. How dry are those fuels? And what we're seeing out there now, and what I want everybody to understand, is the fire is still burning. There's still active fire out there, but it's smoldering fire behavior. So it's smoldering in the larger fuels. The fuels the size of 2x4s or larger. And those fuels are very, very dry, and they will continue to burn until they're consumed or extinguished by the crews. So right now, those fuels are setting at about 10% fuel moisture. And the 2x4 you buy at the lumber store, that comes in about 12%. So you can see they're very dry, so they're going to hold that fire for several more days. And as the incident commander, Carl, just said, you're going to see some smoke out there. It's not going to be a big column. It's going to be a wisp of smoke here, a wisp of smoke there. You may even see an open flame, but you're probably not going to see fire spread. If you see that fire spread, then that's worth a call. But you're going to see some smoke here and there. And that's what the crews are out there working on. They're trying to find those that are close to the line and dig those out and extinguish those. Now, we do occasionally have some issues near the line. Like we had a rollout. A rollout is where one of those breaks loose. One of those pieces of burning material breaks loose, rolls across the line, gets into green fuel, unburned fuel, and starts another fire. So we had a little one that's about 20 by 20 foot square. And the crews were able to jump on that. That's why we still have crews up there to take care of anything like that. And that was just above Drake, I believe it was. And in Drake area is kind of interesting because just a couple of days ago we were running scoopers in there, dumping water after water load. And today we're up there setting poles. So that's how fast this is starting to ramp down and convert back to getting people back in and getting the fire put out and extinguished. So we'll still see that smoke for a few days as the smoldering fire behavior burns out. Thank you.
Lori Hodges, I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Larimer County. I first wanted to start with, I just was in a meeting with the Board of Commissioners for Larimer County, and they just wanted to express their thanks to the team, the U.S. Forest Service, the Sheriff's Office, all the emergency responders, and the Emergency Operations Center for all of their work over this last 8 days. Obviously, it's hard work, so thank you very much for that. I'm going to talk mainly about recovery and restoration. First off, credentialing ends today. We've had credentialing for community members both Monday and Tuesday. However, if a community member has not gotten a credential yet, our clerk's office, the Larimer County Clerk's Office in Estes Park, Fort Collins, and Loveland will continue that credentialing process until we don't need it anymore during regular business hours. So you can go to those places to get a credential. As we move into recovery, we're not only looking at the fire recovery and kind of the land rehab restoration, but we're also looking at the flood threat. So one of the things that the Emergency Operations Center is doing is working with our engineering department and others, our partners at both the state and federal level, to determine kind of the hydrology. We're going to work with the Forest Service really on their assessments as well to determine what those risk areas are, and that'll give us more information about where to go with restoration efforts. In the meantime, because flooding is a threat, Serve 6.8, one of our nonprofit agencies in the county that helps us in disasters, they're doing a sandbagging operation. So those sandbags are going to start being available on Saturday. They're going to try to fill 4,000 to 5,000 sandbags. Community members can go pick them up. They're working on the location now. So if you have questions about that, I'm going to give you a phone number in just a minute about that. Along with that, we need to know the contact information for community members throughout the fire area, not just those properties that were destroyed, but anywhere within the fire, because we are going to want to see about agencies that can come in and do that restoration work to try to help the land recover from this fire. So we do have a form on our website. It's larimer.gov, and if you go to the Alexander Mountain Fire, you're going to see a place under recovery that asks you to fill out a contact form. And that's what that contact form is for, is so we can get you information and resources as they come available for this fire after the response ends and after the team leaves the area. After we get that contact information, it'll also give us the ability to send you a right of entry form. We cannot just go on private property during recovery and do work. We have to have your permission for that. So you can either opt in or opt out of those recovery efforts on your land if you fill out that form. So we'll send that to you. That right of entry form will allow us, if you give us the permission, to do hazard tree removal on your property, not on your private property, but along the roadways. I got permission from the board today to do that work. That's to make sure that we have good ingress and egress into those areas. It's also good, like I said, for that land rehab, conservation work, and watershed health. The phone number that I mentioned, if you can't access that form on the website, or if you have any questions, you can contact our recovery line, which is 970-980-2800. And that line will be, it's a voicemail, so it'll be available until we no longer need it. We're not getting calls anymore. Last, I want to talk about the Disaster Assistance Center again. That will be open from Friday through Sunday, 9 to 7 p.m. And the agencies that we're going to have there are insurance companies to help you with insurance questions. We're also going to have the Division of Insurance. So if you have, they're kind of the regulatory bodies. So if you have a problem with your insurance, the Division of Insurance can help you. Serve 6.8, who I mentioned, as well as the Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, they're going to be able to help people with property cleanup. The Red Cross will be there to help with any kind of individual needs. Watershed resources will be there, building, permitting. The assessor's office will be there to talk about assessment questions. We'll have flood after fire resources. And then we'll also have public and environmental health. There might be some questions with regard to hazardous materials on the land, or maybe you don't know what to do with your propane tank. They'll be able to help you with those questions. So those are some of the agencies that we'll have at the Disaster Assistance Center, again, Friday through Sunday. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Larimer County Sheriff John Fan. Now, I know it is important to get you back in your homes, and that's what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And that's been the focus of everybody on this team, is to do that, to get you back in your homes. So we had the opportunity to open up some key areas of Highway 34 today. So we were able to get some folks back into Waltonia and then up above the Cherry Cider store and the Dam store. Our hope is to open up more of Highway 34 and the access road up into Storm Mountain tomorrow. We're not sure exactly when that's going to happen. We're watching the weather, we're watching the progress of our utility partners and making sure that they can get the utilities up there. But that is our hope and our goal. The best way to find out when we open those is to go to NOCO Alerts again and text LC EVAC to 888-777. And again, that's LC EVAC to 888-777. As soon as we make that decision and that it's safe enough to open up the roads to a certain area, we're going to notify the public who has signed up for that. So that is the best way to do that. Additionally, our Joint Information Center we're kind of ramping that down. You've heard this is the last press conference that we're having here. So over the next couple of days, we are also going to monitor the amount of calls that we get, and then at some point shut that down. We don't know what that is as well. Okay. Now, our incident commander, Carl, talked about this is the last press conference that we've had. So I got a huge list of thank yous for folks, because this is the last opportunity I'm going to get to talk to you as the public and the folks behind us. So if you would have told me a week ago that we would be having this conversation today, that on Friday we were taking scoopers out of Carter Lake and dumping them behind Fire Station 8, and that we'd be at 83% today, I would have told you you're telling me a fairy tale. But here we are. And that is due to a lot of work. I've got to hand it to my partners in those initial hours when the first column of smoke came up, and the Department of Fire Prevention and Control, Tony Simons, Peter Henderson, Chief Tim Sendelbach from Loveland Fire Rescue Authority, and Jason Sieg in the Forest Service. We were standing out there at Sylvandale Ranch watching it go from the first column of smoke, the single tree, the single blade of grass, to that night being over 900 acres. And then by the time we woke up the next morning, it was almost 2,000 acres. And it kept doubling in size. The beast was hungry, and it was feeding well. We pushed the big red button. We had a lot of support from Governor Polis, from Senator Bennett, and especially Congressman DeGoose. And they advocated for us on a federal level. And what came rolling in was the answer to what this community needed. Southwest Team 1. At that point, we got to reacquaint ourselves with some friends that we had met during Cameron Peak, and over the last 8 days, we've made a lot of new friends. And I cannot begin to tell you the difference that they made. I mean, on their first day of transition, they went direct with the fire, and that saved homes. That saved people's wedding albums, and that saved people's children's memorabilia. Not without that would we not be where we're at today. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude, and I can't thank them enough. I know at one point there were over 500 firefighters who were working the fire line, but that does not count I know you can't see around you. If you look around you, the hundreds of people who come here to support this team and the efforts of the men and women who are from local jurisdictions as well to get this done. So it is a huge partnership, and I cannot say that enough. My thanks to all of you. I got a couple more real quick. So, Larimer County employees, Larimer County Sheriff's Office. We say that the Sheriff's Star has 7 points on it because there's 7 legislatively mandated functions of the sheriffs in the state of Colorado, one of them being the fire warden. Well, when that happens, the other 6 don't stop. The business of the office of sheriff has to continue, and you've continued that admirably and made me very proud. And on your time off, you've come out here to do jobs that you never thought you would do. So it tells me that I am very fortunate and blessed to have you, the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, as staff. Families. There's a lot of first responders out here. There's a lot of folks, right? But I know Mrs. Fan and my daughter have not seen their husband for a while. And so you leave hearth and home, and your loved ones don't see you for a long time. Just as hard as we are working out here, you're working back there as partners, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and children to keep the home ready for us when we come home. And I cannot begin to tell you how important that is. And finally, Larimer County residents. Unfortunately, we've been here before, and no doubt we will be here again. But I always tell my staff that if you work with kindness, if you work hard, and you strive to help others, that you will always be successful. And we've seen organizations like Serve 6.8. You've called by the hundreds asking to volunteer and help your neighbors. And that reaffirms my faith that this is an amazing community. So I just have to say thank you for that. So again, in closing, we're going to miss you. You've done an amazing job. We hope you come back socially and not professionally next time, but thank you for being here for our community. And now I'm going to turn it over to Interim Forest Supervisor Jason Sieg, who celebrated his birthday yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jason Sieg, Acting Forest Supervisor for the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forests and Pawnee National Grassland. Just going to provide a few quick updates as we look ahead over the next few days. Today, the local forest activated team members of our burned area emergency response team. So they are here today. They've started showing up and have already been out on the fire, looking at the burn footprint, starting to get a feel for burn severity. They'll be collecting data in the coming days to start to come up with a plan on, what's next as the incident winds down. We know there's stabilization work that needs to be done. And so they'll be working closely with the county as we start to tackle that post-fire issue in the coming days. Want to talk for a minute about the fire investigation. That investigation is still ongoing. Though the Forest Service has the lead on the fire investigation, we're coordinating closely with the Larimer County Sheriff's Department. Both agencies were on site in the burn over the last couple of days collecting data, looking around gathering evidence. Still no determination, and so we're not ready to report out on that at this time, but as soon as we have an update, that information will be relayed to all of you. Also want to talk about transitioning. Incident Commander Swope mentioned that over the next few days we'll be transitioning the incident back to the local forest. So want to let you all know that we've started engaging the forest fire staff who will be taking that incident on Friday. And so they've been activated. They're starting to get re-engaged to the incident, and we look forward to a couple days of transition with your team as we prepare for Friday and for that transition. Also want to talk about appreciation for a couple of minutes. Huge thanks and appreciation to the incident management team for coming and working so professionally and really just having a style of collaboration, coordination, and professionalism. So thank you. Although this fire was difficult and we had some really difficult days, it was also an opportunity for the county, Larimer County, the state, DFPC, and this local forest to build on relationships we already had in place and really just take those to the next level. And I think that led to a lot of the successes we saw on this incident, and that will set us up well for the next incident. A few days ago, we were up here talking about how we were all here for you, these affected communities. And while that was true, today, looking back on the last week, I think we can all agree that really the communities were supporting us at the same time, and we need to recognize that. And so instead of a back and forth, we're here for you, we're supporting you communities, we're all supporting each other. And that's how we're successful in this county when we have these difficult incidents pop up. And so look forward to that coordination and that support in the future. I want to talk just for a moment on what's next. There's more work to be done. We all know this won't be the last fire on this landscape, and so really the time is now to strategically continuing to plan and implement fuels and vegetation treatments across this landscape, not only on Forest Service lands but across all the lands along the Front Range. And that's going to take a lot of work, a lot of coordination, and we'll only be successful if all the partners and communities have a seat at the table as we move out on that. So that's all I have. Thank you again for this opportunity to coordinate and engage with all of you over these last few days at these pressers, and look forward to questions. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll do about 10-15 minutes worth of questions. We can start.
I
Yep.
have one for you, sir.
Yeah.
Last week, the governor said all the fires in Colorado were caused by people. Does your investigation reach the same conclusion thus far?
We have not reached a conclusion yet, so undetermined.
Do you all have an update for us on people who still are under those mandatory evacuations / voluntary? I know those have changed
No.
in the past day.
They did, and I don't have recent numbers from that. I apologize. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Due to the incoming weather, will the burned areas be susceptible to flash flooding?
So upcoming area will be susceptible to flash flooding.
Yes. Yeah, we're watching that very closely. In fact, the meteorologist is back at camp right now watching the radar. You can feel the raindrops hitting us now. And we have sensors in place so we can determine how much rainfall is hitting the area. And those will be continuing to be monitored not only by the local offices, the sheriff's office and the county, but also by the Weather Service office. And of course, the Weather Service office will be issuing any kind of flash flood warnings that they may see coming along. So those will be watched very closely.
Do your forecasts include any kind of wind that might propel something past containment?
And we're doing that right now. We're looking at the winds, and we have several more days of forecasting while we're still in place here, and we're looking at the outflow winds that come in with those thunderstorms, and that's what we're giving to the firefighters so they can prepare properly for any kind of wind event.
Sheriff, I know you talked about people wanting to get back home. We spoke to some of them who live on Storm Mountain, Cedar Park. Those are those areas probably hardest hit. They were grabbing credentials today. Is it going to be a game time decision tomorrow potentially?
And that's a great question. The answer is yes. Like today, our utility providers basically had all of Highway 34 blocked because they had brought this big crane in so they could set the poles up on the hillsides. And so we want to make sure it's safe for them to get through. So we're going to evaluate where they are in that progress. We're going to evaluate what the rain is doing, like you just heard Stuart talk about, before we make that determination that we're going to open the roads.
Other questions?
It's just one. It's my observation, I'm not sure if it's correct, that this fire started high and never really moved down to the river. If that's true, what does that tell you about? Does that help you in your containment, or does it harm you, or does it make it harder?
Yeah, you have that.
So fire's interesting how it burns. So as a fire starts, it's looking for fuel, and it can find fuel 360 degrees around. As long as it's there, it's going to find it, it's going to burn it, and it's constantly seeking out a new piece of fuel to burn. So not only is it running upslope or moving with the wind, but it's also backing into that wind or backing down the slope. So what you usually find on a fire is you'll have a point of origin somewhere in that fire, and then it backs away from that, and we call that the heel. And so it may back all the way down to the river and then self-extinguish. Well, the head moves away from that point of origin and runs out with the wind or upslope, and then the flanks just move away from both of those out to the sides. So that's typically how it runs, and this one did back down to the river in some spots it didn't.
Any other questions? Okay, awesome. Well, I want to take a quick second to say thank you to all of you guys. As a public information officer, my job is to help share with the community what's going on, tell the story of the fire, and I couldn't do it without you guys, so really appreciate it. I do want to do a little plug. There's still a ton of stories to tell about this fire, whether it's the firefighters, whether it's the support from the communities, whether it's about the local response. There's still a lot of really cool stories to tell. Highly encourage you reaching out to the local public affairs officer for the forest, for the sheriff's office, for the county, for the state, to make sure we can help continue to tell those stories. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for helping me tell the story every day. And with that, have a great rest of your day, guys.
Do you guys have any idea where you're headed next?
No,
No?
we do not. Somewhere. Thank you guys.
Thank you.